Hey guys, thanks for tapping in on this video. I want to remind you that we are crowdfunded and dream-driven around here. If you would like to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/pigeons420. With your support, we can interview some of the biggest minds in our space right here. Thank you so much to our members. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting the show. And thank you for watching today's conversation.
Sam, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to dive into something maybe a little bit different on the wellness side of cannabis with you.
Dude, I'm excited about this. I have to be honest, I do not spend a lot of time navigating or speaking to the Canadian cannabis market or industry and community, and it's a shame of that I have. So I'm actually quite excited to be able to dive into this because you are the CEO of a very well-established Canadian brand, and I'm very excited. If you wouldn't mind, for those that don't know, just a little bit about who you are and how you got here.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Sam. I'm one of the founders of UFEELU. We've been operating in the regulated cannabis space, the legal space now for just over 3 years. Prior to that, our current brand was a existing brand in the pre-legalization space, legacy, whatever you want to call it. So I've been in the CBD space now 7, 8 years, and also was involved in other aspects of cannabis before as well, in terms of other types of products as well. But we've really found our niche, and we're really focusing on CBD and wellness. And so you feel you specifically, it's in the name. You feel you as in you feel yourself. So we're focusing on the non-intoxicating compounds in cannabis, so CBD and minor cannabinoids, terpenes without the THC, but also you feel you because we want to create products to help people feel their best selves. So if you're anxious, if you're not sleeping, if you're in pain, these are all obstructions to feeling your best self. And we're trying to use the non-intoxicating compounds in cannabis to create those solutions. So it's kind of a little bit of a double entendre there.
That's wild. Okay, and I got to be honest with you. I'm sure, like most people, I'm familiar with the obvious cannabinoids, the THC, the CBD. I can do CBN and CBG, but then really my knowledge of terpenes or cannabinoids kind of evaporates, and I'm not too familiar with the healing properties of a lot of these. How did you get into minor cannabinoids?
Yeah, so our original iteration of the brand, which was called Feel CBD, that we operated in pre-legalization, we were working. So when we launched the brand originally, what we were seeing was CBD products were just being marketed and created and formulated as a one size fits all. So like, whether you need something for sleep or pain or anxiety, it was just kind of like, hey, here's a CBD product. And we thought like there was enough research being done that we could differentiate products for niche specific uses, whether that's concentration of dosage, whether that's involving certain terpenes. This was like the first iteration of the brand didn't dive much into minor cannabinoids. It was more terpene focused. Um, and then when we transitioned into the regulated space, there was just more research, more also commercial availability to different minor cannabinoids like CBG and CBN. And so we thought this would just be a nice way to level up and progress our brand and drive towards the vision that we're seeking. I think when we create these products, they're all experience based. So like we have our calm drops, we have our rest drops. They're all experience based, and we're always trying to refine them and make them better. Because honestly, the science isn't fully there to like. I think our products could look very different in 5 years, same experiences but refined and improved. So that was kind of um, the thought process with involving those minor cannabinoids, is just really hyper focusing on those experiences and also paying respect to the CBD consumer the same way we pay respect to the THC consumer. Because as a THC consumer, you can go and have an experience. It's not just like, oh, here's one type of THC product for all your cannabis needs. It's always like, hey, do you want a balance? Do you want an indica? Do you want a sativa? Are there certain terpenes you're looking for? You know what I mean? It's like, and those all can drive an experience. And we strongly believe without THC and for wellness purposes, you can do the same thing with CBD products.
That's very interesting. I'm curious because when I first, like when Canada went legal, you saw CBD in everything, man. I saw CBD pillowcases. I saw CBD curtains. Are you offering any CBD pillowcases?
No, honestly, I think there was that crazy CBD rush, and I think a lot of it actually started in the U.S. with the Farm Bill, and I think it almost like to an extent delegitimize CBD, and there's still like repair being done to that. Because we basically had a compound that has so much, therapeutic value, and then you start putting it in applications that don't make sense. And it's kind of like then it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of like one of those things. It's like, is this hippie stuff or is this actually medical? And really, like there's a lot of research and there's more research coming out on CBD and CBG and CBN and CBC on their therapeutic values. And um, yeah, no. So we're really focused on we have oils, and oils was the first kind of lineup we built out. And the reason we did that is oils are the most economical way to get cannabinoid content because you're basically taking raw cannabinoid content and you're diluting it into a carrier oil, so it's easier to dose. So that's what we built out. We have tablets as well. We have two options, like a daytime and a nighttime, a focus and a dream. And those actually employ a different technology called nano emulsification, which can make the products fast acting. They could basically the cannabinoid content can enter your bloodstream in 20 minutes approximately. Um, so a bit of a different format there. We have a topical like roll-on stick. And then yeah, we're developing some other formats as well, but like yeah, we're not no pillowcases, definitely not pillowcases.
That's really exciting, man. Okay, so you've got something for the day. So say that again. It was day and dream.
Focus and Dream is
Focus.
our options for our tablets, and that's partially because and that's kind of one of the, especially talking about the uniqueness of the Canadian cannabis space, compared to say the U.S. You have a state like California, which is the population of Canada. In Canada, you have 10 provinces, three territories, and each one has a different unique way of distributing your products. So you don't have access to all of Canada by being in Canada. You have to slowly open up those. So you don't have access to the whole population, meaning you don't have market maturity in terms of your run rates right away. You have to build up to it. So to commercialize these products and have multiple options is it's difficult. So that's why we started with the daytime and the nighttime for the tablets. And then we can kind of fill out and kind of, create some more unique experiences once we've built out our distribution with those products. But yeah, it's like Ontario is, 10, 12 million people. That's a third of the size of California. And this is a niche category as well. That's another challenge is in Canada specific, CBD is only sold in recreational cannabis stores, which is really, if you think about it, kind of weird because um, CBD products generally, the consumer profile tends to be elderly, people that are struggling with sleep, with mood, with pain. And a lot of those consumers, they're dealing with a lot of stigma. And the last place they'll go is a recreational cannabis store where you walk in and you see vapes and you see, it's just a full on like overwhelming stigma experience. So that's another challenge that's really unique that we've been navigating as a brand the last few years is how do we work with our retail partners to bring in a consumer that might have a lot of stigma coming into that store to come in that store, or how do we meet them where they are, whether that's delivery or online, and there's just navigating the complexities of um the legalization, that how Canada did it, and then the province by province rules, because things can be so different from one province to another. And sorry if I'm rambling a bit here, but Manitoba, for example, retailers can stick things in Canada Post and mail anywhere in Manitoba. So that's really good for reaching seniors, especially in small towns or elder communities. Whereas in any other province, I think maybe BC has it that way as well, but Ontario, there isn't that option. And so finding ways to work through these retailers to reach that end consumer, it's really it's a constant being creative and a lot of collaboration.
Dude, okay, first of all, I had no idea. You can't put weed in the mail in Ontario?
No, so there's the OCS, which is the Ontario Cannabis Store, which is the basically it acts in twofold. So number one, it's the central distribution for all the retailers. So there's 1,600 retailers right now, or a bit more than that in Ontario. And so if you want to get your product into Ontario, you have to get listed with the boards. You have to talk to their buyers. And then once you get in there, stores can then order your product. So they control distribution, similar to like a liquor board. And then they actually have the only online website. So the OCS themselves can mail direct to consumer. It's ocs.ca. And so, but there's no like if you're not able, like in other industries or in other markets, for example, like you're in Manitoba, if one store is not, willing to bring us in, we could work with another store and that store can mail orders. So like, for example, like all of our products are across all Flamingo stores in Manitoba and they can be accessed through mail order. So when when you're not able to work with a central board or, a government board, it basically limits your opportunity to access clients in different ways. It has to only then be through the retail stores. So yeah, just different challenges, and every province is so different, which makes it like what you do in Ontario is different than Saskatchewan, as Manitoba, as Alberta, as BC. It's like managing like 12 different countries basically if you want full distribution across this country.
That's not
It's
going to make
crazy.
anything easy at all, of course.
Yeah, but it also like the cool thing about it, and it's one of those things that you appreciate once you figure out, is then if your competitor is coming to market and trying to compete with you, they have to go through all those challenges you had. So sometimes the path least traveled is the path most successful too, right?
It's a really good point, actually. Yeah, everyone has to play on the same field. That's a really good point. Really good point.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of curious too. Like what, like 'cause you have a number of stores across the country, yes?
So we are working with
Location.
across BC, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, and New Brunswick. We're working with about 900 stores. So like they have like either one or more of our products across 900 stores. I think there's about 3,500 stores across Canada in general. So like basically close to like one out of three stores in Canada are carrying some form of one of our products right now.
Oh, that's great. Good for you. And you know what? Going through that path, as you said, it's can be a pain in the ass, but it's probably well worth it when you have access to such a large amount of consumers, really, and access to the market. That's 900 stores is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, and we're constantly growing and chipping away at it. One of the challenges, especially when our category, it's a low velocity category compared to say the regular stuff sold in a recreational store, like the actual recreational products. So we actually, for us to be successful, we have to build wider, knowing our velocity is slower, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep, that makes sense. So walk me through, like, I know how I extract THC from bud. I used to do BHO, butane hash oil, but then it moved more towards like rosin. A lot of people are pressing these days. What does the extraction process look like for minor cannabinoids? Is it similar?
Yes and no. So, I can kind of just walk through I guess, a bit of our supply chain here. So we're not actually as a company, we're a brand, and we work with licensed partners to basically bring together the components of our products and put it together based on our formulations. So the CBD component of all of our products, like we're not single strain origin, we're actually bringing together CBG with CBD and custom terpenes, and like so we're kind of mad scientists in that way. But all the CBD, we actually work with the partner in Saskatchewan called Endless Sky. And they're one of the biggest like commercial grade sized CO2 extractors of CBD distillate. And so we source a CBD distillate that's like that they extract. That's like I would say 65% CBD, couple percent THC, other minor cannabinoids, terpenes, all that. And then we work with another partner uh, to take that distillate and remediate the THC out, so it's a tea-free product. So we're hanging on to a lot of those compounds from the original source material, but we're getting rid of that THC to a level that it's no longer detectable by a lab. And then that's the base of all of our formulations. And then CBG, it's extracted from a hemp strain from another partner, Panacea, which is an outdoor hemp cultivar. And then that goes to extraction to CBG distillate, and then they isolate the CBG out. So we're using a CBG isolate that we blend into our CBD, our broad spectrum THC free CBD distillate. I know that's a mouthful. CBN we work with as well. Commercially, all CBN is basically it is a solvent based process where you're basically using you're creating a reaction on a THC distillate to convert all the THC to CBN, basically fast tracking the oxidization process that normally happens with THC to CBN. And that's how like CBN isolate is created. So anytime you see CBN in any product in Canada or even the US, it's usually through a solvent-based process to convert. And then we also work with CBC. We're one of the only brands right now working with CBC, and that's extracted from a different hemp cultivar called Painted Lady, which is then processed into distillate and then isolation.
Wow. So these facilities are working entirely on minor cannabinoids, I would then assume?
So I mean, we have probably one of the most complex supply chains right now in Canada. But yeah, so our CBD distillate comes from one group. Our minor cannabinoids, we have 2 or 3 partners because minor cannabinoids, it's a building category, and everybody who's like involved in this space is doing it out of the love and the excitement for it. And so with that, there's a lot of supply chain shortages if you just only work with one partner. So we have 2 or 3 partners. So if one doesn't have something, another does. So we cycle through that way. And then, yeah, our custom terpenes, we work with another partner based in Europe. We use like plant-based terpenes, not cannabis-derived terpenes. But we custom formulate and we choose terpenes based on their functional benefits, and then also layer in that flavor component as well, especially oils. Just want to make the products a little bit more approachable, where our main consumer is elderly. A lot of them have, you know, they struggle with the taste or the texture of these oils. So we really try to do what we can to make sure our products taste good, the texture's nice, there's no side effects. Like we actually use, for example, our oils, we use sunflower oil opposed to like the whole industry uses MCT oil. And a lot of people find that upsets their stomach because it's a saturated fat. So we're using an unsaturated fat in sunflower oil. So yeah, we have quite a complex supply chain, and we're just kind of pulling things together and formulating some really unique products.
Interesting. And I would imagine one of the toughest aspects of this is education, trying to teach people the benefits of this medicine or these cannabinoids. How do you struggle with that? How do you try to make people aware of the benefits?
Yeah, honestly, it's we have to work very closely with retail partners, and that's the funny part. Just kind of going back to how Canada works. For us to commercialize a product, we have to first sell it into the province, and then we have to and that's speaking one language, speaking to the category manager at a province who's just looking at data and numbers, and they're not necessarily interested in the details. They just want to know, will it sell or won't it sell, basically. So that's like, we have to basically market our products one way to get it sold that way. And then to move it to the store, we have to have conversations with like, the corporate buyers or the independent buyers of the stores, which are store managers or, owners, and they think one way. And so, and that gets the product on the shelf. And then once it's on the shelf, we have to have a completely different way of speaking to the bud tenders, because they get excited about different things than the provinces and the store owners. So basically, to successfully commercialize a product in Canadian cannabis, you have to speak 3 languages. You have to speak, board, buyer, bud tender, like across all three, right? So that's something, and these are all things because this is a new industry, like we're one of the first to legalize. And yeah, I think it's all things that like we started doing 3.5 years ago, got really overwhelmed, saw the gaps, started to like solving problems, starting to realize, hey, we can't speak to this person the same way we speak to this person, and problem solving, right? So um it's just a lot of that. It's just a lot of different communication. Like there's also like a lot of cool businesses developing to support these challenges in Canada now because you need innovation. So like there's a group that we work with closely on education called Spiffy, where they actually have modules you can put up and like have budtenders can take quizzes on your products and like read about them and learn about them. So there's a lot of different there's a lot of challenges in this space, but a lot of you know, passionate people trying to come up with solutions and then different, working on different things. We do like a lot of product knowledge sessions with the stores we work on, just like, Google Meets and just like presenting our products. There's education sampling. We could send samples to the bud tenders to try the products and experience them themselves. So it's just like we've been like developing these tools and refining these tools as we go along and as we see things work more effectively than others.
That's awesome. That is very exciting. I think it's yeah, I think it's very fascinating too that you say you have to speak three different languages because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. There's levels to this, and if no bud tender is going to listen to the legalese or the real heavy science, if you will, or the marketability of your product. They want to hear about the effect. They want to hear about how this is going to impact the consumer. They want to know the application processes, the doses, and yeah, I never actually thought of it that way. And really, it's like you can speak the first two levels, but then once you get to the bud tender, your product being on the shelf is half the battle. You just got it there. Now it's got to stand out. It's got to differentiate itself between all the other products. But more importantly, you need somebody who's going to push that product, someone who knows about that product. So yeah, speaking that language of the bud tender is very, very important. Do you,
Yeah, 100%.
I'm curious. I'm curious when it comes to you and your journey. How did you come across weed in general? Like when you first started, how did you get onto weed?
Yeah, so I mean, probably similar to a lot of people in Canada, you're around it in high school. I think the first time I smoked, I was in like I want to say grade 9 or 10. Um, all my friends started smoking before me, and then like I ended up trying it. I didn't get high the first few times. I think the fourth time, I got really high and I got really overwhelmed. I didn't enjoy it. I was like, we were at a park and I couldn't even walk, and it's just like greening out basically. But yeah, like over time, just like experimented a bit more. I was always more of a casual consumer, not a heavy consumer. Um, but yeah, just kind of, on the weekends with friends kind of thing was kind of how it started for me.
How do you consume now? Because I know you are active, you're busy, you're CEO. I'm sure you've got a few people that work with and around and under you. How do you use now to keep it going, keep you motivated?
Yeah, honestly, right now, like in Canada, I'm not sure. I'm less familiar with the U.S. market, but I think it's happening there too, where it's like THC inflation. All the like flour is not like flour that like it used to be. Like I know, pre-legalization or even like when we first legalized in Canada, most flour was kind of in that 15 to 20% THC range, and now it's like coming in at 30% plus. And with that, like I'm finding that's too much for me personally. So and then yeah, like we've actually started and launching a spin-off brand called UFEELU, which is like we're really trying to create some cool balance options because we feel like that's kind of a missing gap in the market right now. So like I would say I'm more of a balanced consumer. Um, like I kind of like that products that are in that 12-13% THC range. Um, Also, I've always dealt with asthma, and like when I smoke, I cough like up a lung like for like an hour. And so like that actually kind of sparked us to kind of look into, different ways around smoking for that. So we actually partnered with this group called Hybrid Supreme Filters. And I don't know if you know those Moose Lab activated carbon Yeah, that right there, exactly. So we basically have that same technology on our pre-rolls that are like, and then we basically have balanced flour with that, and makes it a really smooth smoke, that activated carbon or charcoal. Really, really nice on the throat, and like I could smoke one of those, end to end and barely cough. So yeah, like that's kind of where my consumption's at. I've gone through journeys, like we used to like I was involved in the legacy space, and like I did product development and formulation, and like even just like some sales for everything from like rosin vapes, resin vapes, everything. So I've tried a bit of everything. I've tried, concentrates, all that. I've always kind of um yeah, I've always been asthmatic, so I always regretted it after. But yeah, for me right now, I've kind of settled on kind of like balanced products for me.
Smart, man. Smart. Yeah, you know what? I was turned on to these. I got a buddy, Chris from Black Tie Vapor, and I think I think you've met or you're
I know
familiar.
Chris. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, yeah.
Good friend of mine. Good friend of mine. And
Nice.
he hooked me up with these, and I quite frankly, it wasn't the filters. They go real quick. I threw them. Or I didn't throw them out, but I got rid of them real quick. But I use it because I'm more of a bong guy myself, and
Yeah.
I find the resin from ripping a bong gets caught up on the side of my lips, and I it's nasty, and not to mention the tops of the bongs can be so wide, and I ain't got no prison lips, so it's like it's tough for me, to get my whole mouth around there. So yeah, this thing helps me just get a good rip inside my lips, no mess, no nastiness, and I'm a huge proponent of them. I love these things. I love these things.
The craziest part, if you actually take one of our filters after you use them and you cut it up and you look at it compared to one that's not used, you just see how much it actually pulls in. And it's crazy like that to see that stuff didn't get into your lungs when you
Yeah.
smoke it. Because I know like there's, and this is kind of like, I guess a little bit controversial. Like a lot of people are very passionate about getting every single part of the plant into their body. But like, I think we're doing it also a disservice, not acknowledging that there are carcinogens in here. We're lighting something on fire and smoking it, right? Um, so anything we can do to kind of, create a healthier alternative for those who want it, I think it's really important.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. And the key that you said there is for those that want it. You don't want it, don't use it. It's just that
Exactly.
simple. And quite frankly, if you're telling me that you have I don't have asthma and I don't have any kind of lung issues yet, heaven forbid. Um, if you're telling me that you with asthma notice a difference between smoking one with and one without a filter, I think that's pretty conclusive evidence for me to know that there's at least some impact to some people. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I just figured that it was just for like a smoother hit, and yeah, ripping it out of a bong. I don't know. I honestly, I bought this thing so long ago. It came with 3 carbon filter things. I used them up within like a week or so, and I never tried them again. So I never even did any kind of like experimental research or nothing. I just really enjoy the piece. But I'd be curious to know if like ripping out on bong, you'd see that kind of difference. It's interesting. I never even thought about it. I never even thought about it that way. It's crazy how where the science has gone, particularly with a market. And do you kind of just segueing off that? Do you find that the science or the research on CBD and minor cannabinoids is too limited, or needs to be explored more, or do you think that we're at a good balance right now?
No, there's so much to do. There's like we have so far to go because at the end of the day, these in both Canada and the US, you're talking about for the most part controlled substances, for the better part of like up until recently. So with that, when things are controlled, they're less likely to be researched, and then on top of that, it's you can't really patent CBD or minor cannabinoids. And that also, most of the research done in general when it comes to these kind of studies are done by pharmaceutical companies. And if they can't patent something, they don't want to put money behind it. So yeah, so there's so much more research to go. Like the research on CBD, I would say is it's at a pretty robust space, but when it comes to the minor cannabinoids, CBG, CBN, CBC, it's still very, very limited. And it's honestly like there's some products that we create where um, it's very anecdotal when we create these products. Like we obviously create them and we get a lot of people to sample them and we get a lot of feedback. But like transparently, we can't confidently say yet because the research isn't there yet that it's gonna perfectly do what we're intending it to do. But when we sample enough people and enough people react positively to it, that's enough for us to want to at least. And again, like I said, like everything we create it's like we're creating what we can to the best of our ability now. And if there's better ways to do it a year or two from now, whether that's adjusting a dosage or including a different minor cannabinoid or adjusting a certain terpene in the formulation, we're going to do that. So we think it's better to have the option and then refine.
Smart, smart. What are you probably already said this? What are the main cannabinoids that you're working with?
Yeah, so I think outside of CBD, CBG is probably the most prevalent in our formulations. I think I'd have to check, but almost outside of like I think three or four, like I think six of our products have CBG in there. A few of our products have CBN and a few of our products have CBC. CBN tends to be more nighttime specific products, so we have it in anything that's nighttime specific. Um, and then CBC, what we're finding, so the research on CBC is really around inflammation from a medical perspective. But what we're also finding is a lot of reports from consumers around CBC having a bit of an uplifting effect, like kind of like a matcha kind of little buzz to it. And it also can prevent people from being able to sleep at night. So like taking it earlier in the day is preferable. Um, so we tend to kind of focus more of our daytime products or experiences towards CBC and our nighttime products towards CBN. And CBG kind of works like it can work both ways pretty well. CBG, a lot of the effects of CBG people are finding are inflammation and mood. Mood can be something that, like a benefit of mood can apply to a daytime or a nighttime experience.
Okay, okay. So when you say that, like at the moment, your primary customer base is the elderly, correct? That's what you're.
A large part, yeah, and medical. Like we work with like there's another distribution channel outside of recreational, which is the medical cannabis framework from pre-legalization in Canada. So we work within that as well too, which is a lot of veterans and a lot of medical patients too. But yeah, like I would say, and it's not just specific to our brand; it's more the category consumers that are generally gravitating towards CBD and minor cannabinoids, and specifically THC-free products tend to be of an older demographic.
And for me, I'm thinking immediately when you said that, I'm thinking athletes could be benefiting from this. Construction, where anyone who's doing heavy labor could benefit from this. And when you talk about CBC, it's like immediately what came to mind is like Red Bull. It's like, is there any like way that you could utilize CBC to like, if it doesn't help to sleep, well then it obviously for trademark reasons I can't say it gives you wings, but I naturally would think that if you're doing anything where you need to be alert, you need to be awake and focused, police, military, anything like that, any alert or teachers, nurses. So it's like I see a wide variety of demographic that could really benefit from this because our bodies ache in so many ways and our minds are
Absolutely.
so overloaded with stress and anxiety and depression because we're all human beings and we deal with all those same things. We all need minor cannabinoids.
Yeah, 100%. So two things. So it's funny you say focus because that's actually two of our products. We have our focus drops, so our oil, and then focus moments, which is our tablet format. Um, but further to that, I would say like honestly, any consumer, even a regular heavy THC consumer, can benefit from minor cannabinoids because I mean, first of all, all cannabis has minor cannabinoids in it. It's just how much does it have? And so when you increase, the potency of different minor cannabinoids, that alongside with terpenes is what's shaping and shifting your experience. So like even like an experienced consumer can take a bong rip and pop a focus moment and like game out, for example, right? There's a lot of applications for this for existing consumers, but at the same time, right now, what we're finding is that door's not very completely open. Like usually, like it's funny. Like a lot of the conversation right now is like, are you a THC consumer or a CBD consumer? I really think in the next 5, 10 years, these like two separate areas of consumers are going to start blending together. We're going to see more CBD consumers integrating little bits of THC into their experiences, and we're also going to see more THC consumers integrating more CBD and minor cannabinoids. And I think it's all going to come together. I just think we're just so early in this like journey right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've been saying for years that 1-to-1s, like a 1-to-1 is going to be, it's going to be the number one seller because people want both. People don't want 30% THC. Most people, in my opinion, don't want 30% THC because I can honestly say is I love a bong rip. I loved a good punch in the face, it's like, and it needs to sit me down before it picks me up. And it's like, there's even still a spot where it's like, I could utilize all these other experiences, the entourage effect. There's 10-15% THCs out there that have smacked me because there's just so much more in that effect. There's so much more in that entourage. So it's like, yes, more people should be using more cannabinoids. And like I said, 1-to-1s are, if they're not already, they're going to be the future because you said it. CBD users and THC users, they're gonna come together because we're gonna start to realize that we can get the best experience utilizing an array of cannabinoids.
For sure. And not to, again, this can sometimes be perceived as controversial. But at the end of the day, what we're experiencing right now with legalization is the shift towards cannabis as a consumer packaged good, CPG, right? And with that, whether you look at other controlled CPG like tobacco or alcohol, the light products are the ones that really crush it. If you get outside of controlled and you look at, for example, like there was Coke and then there was Diet Coke and then there was Coke Zero, right? So like there's whether it's controlled or not controlled, there's always the development of the market and the consumer. And then from there, it further segments out into different pockets. And I don't think we're there yet when it comes to CBD and minor cannabinoids, but we're shifting there. You mentioned Balance, products right now, they don't do well in Canada. But we are seeing a shift to that. Like our products are starting to really get some momentum right now as well. I think also one of the things I'm working on with another owner of another brand, Light Label, his name's Grant, is really like the term balance is it's an industry term that we, like myself or you, might use commonly, and we understand what that means. But if you're a new consumer, say you're a 60-year-old, mother that has never, sorry, grandmother at that age probably, that has never used cannabis, and you muster up the courage to walk into a cannabis recreational store, and you're feeling all the stigma, and they throw this word balance at you. What does balance mean, right? Is it a balance of sativa and indica? Like it's kind of like it's an industry term that we expect everybody to understand, but it doesn't really make sense for a new consumer. And what we've been really, Grant and myself have been really working on is working with stores to market and speak of this category of product as light instead of balance, because light is a common word used in other controlled substance industries for consumer packaged goods like alcohol or tobacco, where it's more relatable in that sense. If you say, hey, this is a regular option, this is a light option, the new consumer is going to understand what you're talking about. So just I think words matter, and it kind of goes to all the way back to what we originally said is like how you talk to the provincial board is different than the buyer, which is different than the bud tender, which is also might be different than the consumer.
Of course it would be. Of course it would be. And you know what? I drink Miller Lite. And it just seems to be, yeah, you're right. That it just the words matter. And that's very interesting the way that you put it that way, because, as someone who markets their product, it's something that you should be keen on. Do you find it difficult with the Canadian landscape around regulation for advertising, difficult to get the word of your product out?
Yeah, I mean, with how strict the regulations are, we've gotten away from speaking to the end consumer. And what we do is we really work with, I would say, the bud tenders more than anything to identify the potential consumer. So it's just a different way of thinking. So it is a challenge, but it's kind of, you could sit there and get frustrated at it, but at the end of the day, all the other brands have to experience it as well. And hopefully that changes over time. But until it changes, like, you can only get angry and upset so long before you realize like you're wasting your time. This is, the game is a game.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to play it, right? So we've kind of just really focused on what we believe works, and that's really investing into the front line, the bud tenders. That's where we find the most success on finding our consumers, because they're the closest to them.
Good. Well, you know what? It excites me that you focus on the bud tender, because my experience as someone who's, I'm not even going to say an amateur. I home grow. I've been home growing for 15 years. Feels like forever. And when I walk into a dispensary, the words that come out of a bud tender's mouth make the hair on my neck stand up, and it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Because the first thing they'll ask you is, are you looking for indica or sativa? And that right there just immediately informs me that they have no idea what they're talking about, because the concept of indica sativa is primarily lost, and the explanation of them, or at least the definition of them, can really only come down to growth characteristics only. Because to find pure sativas and pure indicas can be done, but is not being done. So I just don't like...
It's a hybrid these days.
Right. So it excites me to hear that there is investment in the bud tenders, because at this very moment, you can walk into any dispensary and very quickly they're going to ask you something about indica and sativa, and that loses me. It loses me fast, because it's just, that's not the conversation. And then so another thing that I have an issue with is that the bud tenders don't have the opportunity to sample, or at least get a good idea of the products before they sell them. A, because they come in and out real fast. B, because I know owners don't always want to give up this product for price. So then it's tough to, and not to mention, I'm kind of rambling myself here, but it's a rant more than anything, because if my experience talking to bud tenders is frustrating. So there are excuses for that in terms of why. And I think it's because they are not being invested in, and I think that they don't know or are unaware of the array of cannabinoids, or even the array of consumers. Do you find that at all? We're in different provinces, so this, like, I'm in Manitoba, you're in Ontario, so this could be different. But I get this even in America. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So in terms of every province, they have actually different regulations and rules for sampling. So Manitoba specifically is one of the stricter provinces on getting samples into bud tenders' hands. So that's like what you're saying there lines up with kind of where you're at. Ontario's pretty good on sampling, so like we're able to really sample really like well in Ontario, and then every province is a bit different. Like there's just everything's controlled from the provincial level. So it's the provincial government setting the rules. So um, yeah, that's definitely one challenge. And also like it's funny because like we have to service different stores in different provinces different ways
Of
because of
course.
different rules,
Of course.
which is obviously a bit of a challenge. But yeah, honestly, like bud tenders I find are some of the most eager, like they're sponges and they're wanting information. They're not just a lot of the time the information is just not readily available or being provided, or they're not being invested in to buy the say the store they're working at. And um, what I find is there's a lot of eagerness. And in terms of questions, you said like yeah, the indica sativa question drives you mad. The one that drives me the craziest, if somebody says they're interested in a pre-roll, is, oh, do you want infused or non-infused? And it's like, holy smokes. I'm a huge fan of like, I think if a customer comes in and they're like, I think a good place to start is like, what are you doing today? What kind of vibe are you going for? And then trying to, you know, suggest a product that fits that vibe of the consumer. And then obviously seeing where their price, like, you know, where the budget is for the consumer. Do you want something a little more high end, low end? I think that's a better way to go about it. And I think you're more likely to give the customer what they're looking for, even if it's not what they thought they were looking for in terms of a good experience, by going about it that way. And I hope that happens more over time, and I think it will.
Uh,
But yeah, I completely agree with you. There's a long way to go.
Dude, and that excites me, man. It's because it should be people like yourself, companies like yourself that are investing in the front line, because it is very easy to lose products on a shelf. Very easy. It happens all the time. And so that excites me, because the experience that the consumer gets should be one of, excitement, one where you can get your questions answered, and of certainty. You should be able to walk into the dispensary and not necessarily get what you were looking for, but get what's gonna fit your needs. So that it excites me that you're invested in that, because that's what we need. And I can see the frustration in terms of why it would be difficult to kind of get everybody on the same page across province to province to province, because you've got regulations. And I didn't know, of course, that dispensaries can't have or can't allow their employees to sample and stuff. I thought it would be I don't know. I thought it'd be a must. I thought that would be how it goes. I can walk into a liquor mart and get a sample of as a consumer, can get a sample of anything off the shelf. Pretty close anyways. I was curious that you
Yeah.
can't do that with weed.
Yeah, so I don't believe there's actually for end consumer in Canada, I don't think there's any allowance of any sampling in any province. So like consumers, just not at all. And then stores, bud tenders, it's different province by province. Most now, like, and everything is moving in the right direction. So the ones that don't are starting to open up slowly, because they're seeing other provinces have success with it and different, but yeah, it's definitely it's crazy like how locked down things are, and it's funny too because in some provinces, where the rules are stricter, you'll still have stores expecting samples, and so they're basically leaving it on the brands to figure out how that's sorted out in a way that the brands don't get in trouble for, and it's like, but it's like, yeah, it's I think we're basically as Canada, we're the experiment. Like we're the first large country to legalize cannabis. So I think a lot of countries are going to look at what we're doing a couple of years from now and be like, well, that worked, but I don't think these things worked. We're not going to do those things. Um, so yeah, like I think it's just, one thing I think right away off the top is like the province by province distribution to me. I wish there was just a way to just nationally distribute, because brands would be like more successful when allowed to have like, if you're able to speak to the whole population, say 40 or just north of 40 million in Canada, opposed to a slice of it, businesses are more likely to succeed just from that alone. um so yeah, so like I hope long term there's a faster way or a more streamlined way to be able to do that. But in the meantime, it is what it is, and you navigate it.
You're 100 you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. And one thing you said earlier in regards to, advertising and finding a spot for your product in the world, it's you can sit and you can bitch and complain and whine about it, or you can just try to figure out how to work within the confines, try to play the game. You see it, we have the rules, right? That's one thing. We can see the rules. So it's not like they're like I play a game on YouTube or social media in general where it's like you can't see the rules that they hold us to. They're just kind of like ambiguous and very vague. And so Instagram can delete us and YouTube can delete us without happening. But at least in a legal market, we have the rules. We have it laid out for us, and either you can sit back and cry about it or work with it and try to figure it out. I've spoken
Exactly.
I've spoken with a lot of brands, or a few brands in Canada, in regards to branding, and a lot of them, it's underwhelming how lackluster advertising or branding can be, and not branding in terms of just the look of your product, but how you present yourself to the world is very lackluster. Because I feel like a lot of brands are just kind of like playing the game and not trying to build a presence. And that goes with social media, that goes with outreach. But like you said, in regards to investing in the bud tender, that's investing in the community, making yourself known, sponsoring events, and so on and so forth. Do you see again? I'm in a different province, so things are a little bit different here. Do you see that in Ontario as well, or is there a little more willingness to put a brand out there and tell the story?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we're talking about just a lot of startups all at the same time, basically, right? And so I think that's, you know, basically what happened. And then obviously when there's restrictions and people push them and they get in trouble from Health Canada or their Instagram gets shut down, you've got to kind of diversify where you direct your investment to make sure you're getting consistent ROI. You're not stressed out about your Instagram getting shut down. So I think there are a lot of great brands starting to develop now. Um, Now that people are willing to kind of bend the rules or push it a bit. We're seeing events honestly all across Canada. In Manitoba specifically, there's an event twice a year called Token Tuesday, which is phenomenal. And like I've been out to the last few, and they just do such a great job. But there's events in Ontario, like there's one called Kind, and it's like literally thousands of bud tenders at this point, and it's like they I think this last year they had like a couple musical artists and everything. So like events are starting to develop. The I think the main challenge for events is again, it's all industry related because there's no point in doing events for consumers because you can't sample to consumers. So that's I think that's something that's going to eventually change regulatory wise is finding a way for consumers to be able to participate because that's going to create a new way to market. Because it's one thing to not be able to, like for example, like beer gardens at concerts. Like it'd be cool to have that equivalency for cannabis. So like these cannabis events don't have to be isolated; they could be integrated into music festivals. Um, so yeah, like I think that's kind of where we're at on the event side. In terms of branding, I think it's a regulatory thing. Most brands that I see are really geared towards creating a brand to excite the bud tenders, so the bud tenders are excited to sell the product, and that makes sense because that's the best, most effective way to sell right now. I think a lot of it is held back from regulatory, and everybody's just kind of guiding how they invest their dollars accordingly to be most effective. And I haven't really seen any brands effectively target the end consumer to build the brand. It's usually, and it's not to say that you don't have any layers at all targeted towards that. Like we've worked with some of our retail partners to, visit retirement homes and speak to old people and do presentations. And so we have talked to the end consumer, but you can't really build a business in this industry that way it's like it's something you can test out and try, but like really the biggest ROI right now is the dealing with the buyers and dealing with the budtenders.
Okay, that's very insightful because you know what? As a consumer, I would never see that. So it's like to hear that there is a successful method to work around the regulations, and that method is to on the back end, it's to ensure that everyone is excited and knowledgeable about the product to push the product. So that's good because I wouldn't see it. I wouldn't see that. And because like for me, I picture a "You Feel You" billboard with nothing more than like a sport athlete's, maybe like a shoe with a high sock, and it just says "You Feel You" and they're sweating or something. I could just see it. That's it, and it's like,
Yeah,
and that's not allowed, correct?
it's not because anything that depicts lifestyle is currently not allowed under
Right,
the regulations,
right. But could
unfortunately.
you target occupation?
So you can so number one, if you're doing any kind of marketing, it has to be age gated. So like I'm not sure if like you've ever gone to a bar and you've seen like in the bathroom in the stalls cannabis advertising. That's because that's been validated as age gated because to get into the bar you have to be 19 plus, for example. Um, in terms of, I guess you're asking more, is that kind of material allowed? Um, yeah, as long as there's no people basically in there, you could, I mean, it would have to be creative. So, like, yeah, for example, if you're trying to target nail estheticians, I'm sure you could have a hand there and like some like, stuff there. It's all gray area at the end of
Or
the day right now.
yeah,
It's like you
yeah.
don't know when Health Canada's gonna, yeah, and so it's like generally when it's gray area, like there's some people that are pushing it a bit more, and then there's some people that are just kind of like don't want to get slapped. And for us specifically, we're on the very cautious side.
I get it, and that makes sense. You have a brand. You don't want to. Health Canada doesn't f around. They'll throw fines at you, and they won't think twice about it. And you know what? I play the same game on YouTube. I love the gray area. I really do. It's kind of where I like to exist because it's like you can really push the boundaries there, but it comes with limits and it comes with consequences. And so it's like if you're really trying to make the most waves, maybe facing those consequences all the time isn't necessarily the because there's no publicity with messing with Health Canada. The it's not like it's not like you're up against the man. These stories don't make headlines, so it's not like it's like let's back You Feel You because they're going up against Health Canada. Nobody would even know. So yeah, I could see the hesitation. But I like how you said it. It's
Yeah.
the creative though. There is something there. There's something that could balance that line. I just think America, it's such a free for all. You've got brands like cookies. You've got, well, for lack of a better example, Dan Bilzerian's Ignite. That one was just women and boobs, and it was just like wow, and very little weed. It's just a free for all. And then you look over here, and it's like you have these brands that are constantly working behind a curtain, and it's like here, find us, but really all you're seeing is just movement behind a curtain. There's no real nothing in front of it, and it would present challenges inevitably for sure. But I do see that you have a social media page. I saw your Instagram page, and it's got some movement, it's got some traction. You guys got quite a following over there. So social media is the first big step because there is no regulation, right? You can have a social media page. Is Health Canada going to regulate your content on there?
Yeah, no, we've had warnings on certain types of
Damn it.
content from Health Canada that we posted on Instagram, but then also on Instagram, you're worried, just anybody in the industry is worried about your page getting shut down and you
That's
losing your
natural.
followers. So
Yep.
like we've actually lost our account once and then we were able to dispute it and we got it back. Um, but yeah, like it's like we have in the past pushed the boundaries a bit on Instagram. We used to do a little bit more lifestyle stuff, but like I think we got a warning when we basically had like a recipe showing how you could use your oils in a smoothie recipe
Mm.
to like create a pre-workout smoothie. And Health Canada didn't like that because they're showing because oils are and it was a weird rule actually. It was pretty funny. Um, they didn't like that we were positioning our concentrates as an edible. So like they were saying like, oh, you're misclassifying how you're marketing your products.
Ugh.
As once you put the oil in the blender and you blend it with everything, it's technically now an edible. And they're just like, they didn't like that. That was kind of what they warned about. Um, but yeah, so but it wasn't like a fine or anything. They just said like, hey, this is offside for this reason on this role. Please remove this. And so that was it was it's not like we were stressed out about like getting a fine or anything because like they're pretty easy to deal with that way. They just like if you're a little bit offside, they'll tell, just say, hey, don't do that.
Uh-huh. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What a pain in the ass that would be. And go ahead.
But yeah, it would apply to everything to answer your question. Website, social media, any even marketing material, creative inside a dispensary, everything is subject to Health Canada review. For anything you do.
Huh. Yep. It's a pain in the ass. I guess that's the reality of a legal system and a legal market is, there's going to be some regulation and some guideline. I think it's wrong. I think it's all wrong. I think, I do agree that it shouldn't be, maybe there shouldn't be a billboard on the side of the freeway. Cause yeah, I don't want, kids are going to see, I don't know. I personally think parents should raise children, not billboards, not government, not anything else. So it's like, I can tell my kid no, that's a beer billboard. That's not for kids, or that's a weed billboard. That's not for kids. So, but I maybe not have this marketing next to a school or something. So I can find some justification. But the reality is like, if we're going to advertise to consenting adults and, everything else is Hail Marys. There's alcohol commercials that sponsor hockey events alcohol brands that sponsor hockey events or sporting events. It's just a double-edged sword. It's just a weird double standard that it just doesn't make any sense. And it's like, it must be getting tougher and tougher for the Canadian government to justify this because it just doesn't make any sense. Do you see change coming soon or no?
Honestly, I see change happening all the time. It's very slow, but everything's always moving in the right direction. I think one of the biggest things that's hard to wrap our heads around, and it was funny, like there was like I think this was like when Trudeau was still prime minister. He issued a response back to the Canadian cannabis industry in regards to, hey, we need excise tax reform and everybody's struggling, all these brands are struggling, retailers are struggling. His basic response was like, well, as a government, we didn't legalize cannabis to make everybody wealthy. We legalized it for harm reduction. Which is like, you know, I get that perspective as well in terms of, like they're just trying to make sure that, all supply is going through regulated channels. There's no support of the black market or gangs or violence, all that, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, if you're going to do that, like people are going to expect to be able to operate businesses as well. So you kind of have to do both. So yeah, so that's like, I think just having that perspective and understanding that the government's viewing things different than we're viewing things. And I think it's on us as an industry to understand what the government wants out of legalization to be able to lobby for our interests as an industry, right? So especially being a new industry, I think there's a lot more disorganization than other industries. And so I think that's one challenge where, like navigating as an industry right now is definitely that. But also in terms of like whether to have marketing billboards or not, I think the other part of this as well is and a lot of provinces are doing this. Like I know Quebec's very active on this, is they're constantly measuring like the results of legalization and what they can do as a province to, like whether they look at things like, how many hospital visits there are for alcohol versus cannabis and how that's trended since legalization. And so like, I don't think any of us know the result, like what would come of open advertising yet. And I think it's good that we're moving a little bit slow, as painful as it is, because we don't want to do something that, might need an overcorrection later as well. I think just it's tough because like and you kind of likened it to alcohol. But if alcohol was legalized today, do you think it would have come out just like, oh, let's do sports games, let's have billboards? I think it's just a result of something that was legalized at a different time, um,
I
in a
actually do.
different frame of mindset.
I actually do. I actually believe that if alcohol was legalized today, it would be explosive. And I compare that to gambling. Have you seen how gambling has exploded into at least Canadian
It's
television?
crazy.
And this isn't
It's too much.
gambling's been around for a long time. However, the proliferation of advertising and the legalization within, America's gone heavy on the illegal side of gambling outside of established events or what have you. Um, Canada's the opposite, and it's incredible how it is justified to push gambling on my child through television, through his apps, through his games, through every single thing he opens up his phone. He's presented with some form of gambling, and it's like, yeah, I do think if I do think if alcohol was legalized today, it would be that same way. If we chose insert whatever, it would be very similar. I do think if we did the same thing with cocaine, for example, I think it would be explosive. The problem is we have in my humble opinion, the wrong people trying to figure out this system. What does the government know about regulating cannabis? What does the government know about cannabis in general? I would argue almost nothing. So it's like government should not be involved in 80% of what's happening, and that is the biggest issue here. So I just feel like we just have the wrong people in charge, but that's a whole other conversation. If you could see in a magic ball, you mentioned a few collaborations, where do you see yourself and UFEELU in the next 5 years? Where would you like to see yourself the next 5 years?
Yeah, so we're continuing to build out, both our, like, there's a couple provinces we're not in, Alberta, Quebec, so we're building out our national distribution. Further to that, we're starting to work a little bit more on the medical side in Canada, but also starting to look outside of Canada as well to, countries that are starting to legalize, more on the medical side, like Australia, Germany, Europe. So we want UFEELU to be like an international, wellness cannabis focused brand, and that's our ultimate goal. So that's kind of where we want to be, and then we also want to build out HiFeelU because we believe, just like you mentioned as well, that balance category has a lot of potential, and it's going to take some time to build it. But we believe that's where the consumer is going to end up, is on the light side. The light and the balance consumer is where things are going to shake down to. So yeah, honestly, like we're just really huge proponents of harm reduction and responsible consumption, and that's kind of why we really want to stay in that lane and continue to build it up.
That's awesome, man, and I'm really excited to see you do that because you're doing some big things, and I honestly think with your passion, which I can feel, you guys are going to be unstoppable. So I wish you nothing but luck on your journey to take over the world, my friend. It's America's a fun market too. If you have the opportunity to get down, I say this as a Manitoban for crying out loud, but I spend a lot of time in America. I've got 2 businesses in America, and I've frequent quite a few events down there, and it's like it is a lot of fun, and it needs grassroots passion to take over on a mainstream level, because unfortunately right now it's corporate, and that's the advantage I think that Canada has over the US, is that we don't have that same dominance by corporate cannabis. And I say that even though we've harvested some of the biggest corporate Canadian or corporate international cannabis corporations in the world, and they haven't done the best things. So there's a lot of hope, and I'm excited for you with that. Sam, if anyone wanted to reach out to you or to get in contact with UFEELU, how would they do that?
Yeah, several ways. You could find me on LinkedIn, Samir Padamsi. We have our LinkedIn page, UFEELU, as well there too. Instagram, it's UFEELU. And if anybody wanted to even email me, they can email me directly at sam@ufeelu.com.
Dude, I have a feeling this is going to be one of many conversations between the two of us. This was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed sitting down with you, man. And I feel like we didn't even break into a lot of the minor cannabinoid things because, man, there's a whole story to be told there. But man, I look forward to hooking up with you again in the future. I appreciate you for making time for the community here and having a conversation with me. And I can't wait till the next time we chat. Sam, thank you, man.
Thanks a lot. Have a great one.
Take care, my friend. Peace for now.
Take care. All right. Bye now.
Guys, we'll be right back after this.